Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to get started. Welcome to Lookout's very first 2024 Political Forum. This is one of 3 that we'll be doing this year. I just think it's really wonderful. I just want to say, start out, yay to you. Give yourselves a nice big hand for coming. Thank you so much. We ordered great weather for you tonight after last night's craziness. I spent the early hours bailing out our ADU, so no fun, all right? This climate change is real. We appreciate you all, everyone at home who's listening. We appreciate you too. I'm Jody Beal. I am the opinion editor at Lookout. I edit the Community Voices pages. I also teach journalism at UCSC. I see at least one of my students here tonight. They're all ordered to watch, but you can't guess which one it is. As I tell them, this is democracy in action. This is really it. You are it doing this here tonight, showing what it is to take part in a local community. I think that it takes several things. It takes, good local journalism, it takes community engagement, and then it takes voters to go out and really do the action of what democracy is. So we at Lookout regard this as helping inform the public, helping you understand what the issues are so that you can know how to vote. It's been really sad to see recent years. I'm sure a lot of you know this. I teach this, so I could be talking about this a lot, about the sad news in journalism and the decline in traditional print, classic journalism that many of us grew up looking at and thinking about and informing us. And we're looking at the Wild West right now. We don't really know what the future is going to be. It's sometimes frightening. I think there are some great alternatives out there. I'm hoping that we can help find the answers. Lookout, in a way, right, is part of that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But we've seen layoffs at the LA Times this past week. Recently, we also saw the Baltimore Sun. Anyone paying attention to what's happening there? I see one person is. That's good. Anyone else? Baltimore Sun. A few people. Right, Baltimore Sun, this historic 146-year-old newspaper, was sold. It was bought last week by David Smith, who's a top manager in the management at the conservative-leaning Sinclair broadcast group. Sinclair owns the largest amount of TV stations in the country. It leans right. Yeah, well, not only that, but in 2016, this David Smith, who now owns the Baltimore Sun, said, reported by The Guardian, he told Donald Trump that we, Sinclair News, are here to deliver your message. Right? So I'm really proud to be part of Lookout because we're not here to deliver anyone's message. It's hard to find independent local news. Lookout is looking for a new model, trying to figure it out. It's not perfect. We're getting there. We're working on it. We're at a time when most news organizations are shrinking, Lookout's actually growing. So that's super exciting. Our founder, Ken Doctor, is not here tonight, sadly. He will be here for the next 2. Ken is away because he's growing Lookout at another city where it's going to be the second Lookout coming. So he's looking to recreate this model to make it happen all over the country. And so again, for me, it's a really exciting thing as an academic, but also as a journalist to be part of this and to say that, yes, we're doing this together as a community. We'll have 3 forums this year. So again, please come back. Please pay attention. And then we'll have more for you in November. So our Lookout staff, lots of them are here. If you guys would just wave, say hi, so everyone knows who you are. We're really happy. Thank you. It's a great, fun team. Maybe applause. Yes. Super exciting. Bringing everything that you have to you here. By the way, Ken did say that if you're a candidate, you get a free drink on him. So if you haven't done it yet, you could do it after. You want it right now? Okay, we can maybe get that right now. Jamie, where are you? Jamie will help get that. Jamie is the director, Jamie Garfield, Director of Student and Community Engagement. Jamie helps bring Lookout to schools, which is really super important and exciting. It's already free for college students and high school students. We're trying to bring it into the high schools. We're trying to make it free for teachers too, right? Because we know, all of us know that that's where it all starts. You have to have a habit of reading, a habit of paying attention to the news, a habit of being politically engaged, because otherwise it's never going to happen. So we're really hopeful that we can continue that Lookout can keep doing that. Thank you to Hotel Paradox for this incredible space and for facilitating this, for being our event partner. We couldn't do it without you. And thanks again to all of you here for coming, for being here, for being part of this. And finally, I just want to take a moment to note that it is really becoming increasingly difficult to be a political candidate in this country, right? There are so many pressures on people. Many good people make the choice not to run, right? They decide it's not for them. They're not going to it's going to hurt their family to run. Personally, they don't want to have the kinds of pressures that they have in office. And I feel like we're really blessed as a community to have 9 good people here tonight who have said yes, who have agreed to run. And these people are running, you're going to hear from all of them tonight. They're running for the Board of Supervisors. There's 2 seats. There's actually 3 seats in this election, so that's a lot of the 5 seats. 5 seats altogether, 3 seats are up for election. We're going to hear from candidates from 2 of those seats tonight, District 2 and District 5. A little bit of background, just to let you know. So 2 years ago, when I was doing this forum, we had also a supervisor's race, and our state had a budget surplus. Think about that, right? California, boom and bust. Right now, we are close to a $40 billion deficit. So that's something that whoever wins is going to have to reckon with. The Board of Supervisors is about servicing people. It's about getting people the services paid for by the state that they need to make their lives better. I'm talking about physical and mental health. I'm talking about assistance to needy families. I'm talking about food stamps, all these kinds of things. This is what the Board of Supervisors has to do. It's their mandate. It sets priorities for the county. So whoever wins in these races is going to have to do more with less. Right? Lots of needy people are maybe not going to get the services. They're going to have to figure out, be creative, find ways to help those people and get us the services that we need. So again, 9 candidates, 2 races. That's a lot. We have a lot of people on the stage tonight to hear from. We have 5 in this race. Chris and I. So Chris Neely is the politics and policy correspondent. We're going to be sharing moderating duties tonight, and we're going to work our best to help you understand the differences between these people and get a sense of who they are as leaders and what their priorities are. Okay, just a tiny little bit more of background. The Board of Supervisors right now is all male. It's been that way since 2012. So that could change with this race, with these 2 races, that could change. We've also seen a lot of veteran leadership in this community leave in the past few years. So that leaves a lot of questions as who's going to emerge as our strongest leaders? What direction are they going to take us, right? Who are our new leaders going to be? Obviously, our area has many big issues that confront the whole nation. Santa Cruz is a little bit of a microcosm for them, right? Affordable housing, we're on the forefront of climate change. We have mental health issues in this community that we need to think about, addiction, fentanyl. We have issues in our jail. We have a lot of pesticides used in South County, an issue that we've been trying to focus on in community voices quite a bit. We have a hospital we're trying to save in Watsonville, our community is trying to save, and we have endless roads and bridges that need to be fixed. So all of these are the kinds of things that the Board of Supervisors looks at. We want to help you understand what kind of leader, what kinds of answers some of these people have to some of these questions. We'll get to as many as we can tonight, and of course our Lookout efforts continue in all of our coverage and looking online and following the races, and we encourage you to do that. We also really encourage you, if you're not yet, to become a member. We know it's hard. We know that everyone is struggling, but honestly, if we can't support local news, we can't pay our journalists to bring you these stories. So again, we're working really hard to make it free for those who need it, but if you can, and if you think it's something that you enjoy, I think it's a civic duty, right, to get good news. So think about becoming a member. There's membership information on your plates, at your tables. Okay, rules of the forum, just quickly, and then we'll get started. It's each section is 1 hour, so we'll have 1 hour discussion. Everyone gets 90 seconds for their answers. We have timekeepers right here who are going to be holding up signs for you guys so that when you get close to your mark, I don't have like a hook or a buzzer, but we're going to all try to be true. I do want to encourage candidates to talk to each other, to interact, to respond, right, to be themselves. We just want to make sure that nobody dominates and overwhelms and takes over and has a lot more time than anyone else. So we're trying to keep everyone okay with the time cues. We'll allow people to rebut or to say something if you disagree. I would love for that kind of dialogue to happen. Please don't respond by applause or cheers or booing. We never would do that, right, in our civic-minded community. It just makes it for a harder, it's hard to be up here, right, as we said. So just be civil and be kind and be courteous. I am going to take questions from the audience, although we're going to take them via cards. So if you see in the middle of your table, if you have something you'd like to say or add, please hold up your hand. Our lookout staff will pick them up regularly throughout the discussion, and then our editors will filter and sort them and bring them up to me, and I will try to ask as many as I can. I really encourage you, even if it's very short. I have like 15 questions I want to ask. I'm never going to get to all of them, right? So I'll try to include yours as well. If we don't, please know that your question will still inform our reporting, right? We will hand it to our reporters, and if it's something that really needs to be looked into, hopefully it'll find its way into their reporting. So just know that it won't just disappear if you send a question. Same for people at home. If you want to ask something, please email. news@lookout, right? news@lookoutlocal.com. And that way we'll have your question too. Okay, I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we're going to have a fun lightning round at the end where we ask them quick, fun, one little, word answer questions, just for kicks. So, okay. So tiny little last thing that I'm going to say, and then we really are going to get into this. I just want to tell you for a minute about District 2. So, for those of you who don't know, District 2 includes Aptos, La Selva Beach, Seacliff, Rio Del Mar. It's got parts of Watsonville, Corralitos, Freedom, the Pajaro River Basin. It's rich agricultural land, it's rural, it's suburban, it's a really big mix. 54,700 residents. Okay, you guys ready for my pop quiz? Told you I'm a professor. Okay, what do you think is the biggest issue in District 2? Raise your hand if you know. If you don't, I'm going to call on you anyway. No, just kidding. Okay, what do you guys think? Anyone? Yes. Affordable housing. Who else? That's a good one. What else? Yes.
Concerns about
addiction. What else? Roads is right. Yes, $25. No, just kidding. Roads. District 2 has a drink. District 2, if Ken was here, I would make him do that. District 2 has the most roads of any district in the county. Most roads. Fun fact. That's 179 linear miles. And according to our deep throat source, which is actually outgoing supervisor Zach Friend, of the 75,000 roughly inquiries, calls, and emails, see what's coming? Last year, the overwhelming majority were about roads, culverts, and infrastructure. Right? So that's what people are thinking about. So climate change is real. So that's just some fun facts about District 2, and now I'm going to turn it over to our candidates. I'm going to ask each of them, and in no order, we just sat them here. I'm going to have them go, and then we'll switch up the order as we go. You will all help me keep honest about whose turn it is to speak first. I hope. I have not had a drink. I'll give them 60 seconds just to introduce themselves. So, Kim, you want to be first, or should we start on that end? Do you have a preference? Be first?
Sure.
Okay.
Is it on?
Hey, Kristen, did you ever find the car? No. Okay, so I need to make an announcement first. So somebody parked next to me in a dark gray Honda Civic with a big Kristen Brown sign in the back window. And your passenger window is all the way open, like all the way. So if that is your car, I would go out.
All right.
So I hope that's okay.
All right. All right. We're off to a good start.
I was just worried about, people either climbing in it or it's starting to rain. Anyway.
All right. Okay. All right. No, we're
I
not
hope
counting that
not.
as your 60 seconds.
Okay, ready, go.
All right, go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Serpa, a 26-year resident of Aptos. I live in a rural area out Trout Gulch Road, so I'm very deeply aware of all the needs of the rural area, including roads and connectivity. We don't have internet connection in much of District 2, including on the highway going south on Rio Del Mar or by the Pajaro River. It's very frustrating to try to do work on my way in to work, and my calls drop. I'm a mom of 6 kids and a blended family. My husband's a physician from Stanford. He's here tonight. Hi, honey. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and manager at Salinas Valley, formerly Memorial Hospital, where I supervise a team of 12. I've put in programs for grief support, for people at the end of life, and for substance use treatment. I have a lot of passions. I'm on a school board for the last 14 years for the Pajaro Valley, and we've made a lot of improvements for families and children in the district, and I'm very proud of that work. Thank you.
Do you want us to stand or sit?
You can sit. It's up to you. You can sit. That's fine.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tony Crane. I have been a resident of Santa Cruz for nearly 40 years now. I have 4 kids, ranging in age. I have 18-year-old twins that go to Cabrillo, and a 23-year-old and a 34-year-old that lives in Maine. Roads are, since she kind of spoke about the roads around her, where she lives, I live right off of where the farm bakery is. We call Soquel at that point Highway 2, because people literally are going 60 miles an hour, maybe more at times, and in order to get out of our neighborhood, you have to cross over that. And so, not that that is a road conditions per se, but that somehow that needs to get managed.
Great.
10 seconds left. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Hope you don't get wet on the way home. My name is Bruce Jaffe. I'm a 40-plus year resident of the Mid-County, Capitola, and Aptos. I have a beautiful wife and 2 college-age kids. And I'm running for this office for community service. My background is I'm a scientist. I'm a professional oceanographer, geologist. And I've got a proven track record for leadership and problem solving. I've served on the Soquel Creek Water Board for 21 years, and I'm the current president. And Soquel Creek Water Board has developed cost-effective regional strategies to address the crucial issue of clean, safe, and abundant water. And as your county supervisor, I believe I can find the best solutions to the many significant issues we face. I'll work hard for you to make our county government an enabler instead of an obstacle, and usher in a new era of prosperity and security for all.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm a 4th-generation county resident, currently serving as mayor in my mayor of Capitola in my 8th year of my 2nd term on Capitola City Council, and I want to be a representative on the Board of Supervisors for District 2. I have 13 years of experience in public policy, having worked on the federal, state, and local levels, including time as a congressional aide for Congressman Sam Farr and Congressman Jimmy Panetta. I currently serve as the Vice Chair and incoming 2024 Chair for the Metro Transit District, the Chair of the RTC, a board member of the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments, where I led the board through the Regional Housing Needs Assessment process. I have a total of 4 college degrees, culminating in a master's in public administration, and I'm proud of my time and my accomplishments during my time on Capitola City Council. I care very deeply for our community, and I believe that I have the experience and education necessary to step into this job and get the job done on day one. I would be very honored to serve in this role. I don't just know the work, I love the work, and I'm looking forward to answering the questions this evening.
I'm going to stand up. I hope you don't mind. My name is David Schwartz. I've lived in this community for 40-plus years. My wife and I own an organic farm out in Corralitos. I drive the roads like every day back and forth to work. I have a business that I've been operating in Soquel for 35 years, doing people's taxes, helping people with all kinds of financial issues and things like that. I've helped hundreds of people buy their first homes and save on their taxes and deal with government regulation. I spent 9 years on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and that was a wonderful time helping our community find volunteers to actually help our young people have somebody that they can look up to. I know a lot about a few things, and I know a little about a lot of things, and I think I have experience that the county needs of me. I'm a financial person. I need to watch where the money goes, and I think our county is not paying attention. The roads are in such horrible shape that I'm going to do something about it. Thank you.
Ooh. All right. Great. Okay, well, that is great because it segues into my next question, and that is that everyone wants to fix the roads. We've heard that. But I want to know specifically, so this is a kind of a two-part question. I really want to know what you think are your road priorities, right? I know you guys talked about your specific roads, but like where are your road priorities in the community? So first of all, what like top 2, 3 areas that you think really need fixing first? And then I also want to know a little bit about how you're thinking about climate change in our region. So District 2 has a lot of coastal land and a lot of coastal homeowners who have really expensive land on the coast. It also has Sea Cliff State Beach. So all of these places are really difficult to maintain given coastal erosion. And so again, valuable homes, state beaches, also some rural areas that service very few people. The county regularly fixes the roads and then they get washed out again. And so my question is, do you support, so the roads, which roads, but then also do you support reinforcing the coastline and protecting property like large, expensive homes, or do you endorse managed retreat, right? That is, let's move away from that question. Let's move away from the coastline and make those property owners, the county's not going to pay for their own the property, have the property owners pay for it. And if you would be doing that, how would you get those property owners to be convinced that it's not the county who should do it, it's them? So that's kind of a long question, but I think you can go for it. I know, right? You get 90 seconds. That's okay, easy. All right, I guess, I don't know, Tony, would you mind if I just move down to you to start with you? Sure. It'll be easier on my poor brain if we do it that way.
Yeah, I'm going to stand as well. It's
okay, great.
Tight in here. So I don't think that I'm going to say what my priorities are about the roads. I think that's something that the people who are supposed to be managing the roads should make that decision. There's obvious, I don't know. I don't want to try to put it on my neighborhood. I think that Soquel, right where I live, is kind of a nightmare, and it does need to be worked on. But so I would leave that to the professionals, the engineers. As far as the coastline, I don't know if retreat is necessarily the way to go. A good friend of mine, actually, it's what he does, is he looks for ways to manage coastlines and to build barriers. As far as trying to convince people that it's their duty, I didn't tell them to buy that property. I'm not sure if it's my job to try to convince somebody to do anything.
Well, but if the county's not going to fix the road, then they've got to fix it themselves.
Well, and so we have to look at our budget, and as far as I know, there is no budget for our roads. I'm pretty sure there isn't. Then we can't do anything about it, and we've got other priorities that we need to take care of. So private owners, unfortunately, that's their problem, and they're going to have to manage that.
Okay, thank you.
So I detected 3 questions, Jody.
Okay, all right.
Roads, climate change, and how to deal with coastal erosion, sea level rise, threatening valuable property. Roads, I agree with Tony here. You go to the experts. I've talked with Matt Machado, who's head of Public Works, and of course, the priorities have to do with public safety is the highest priority, be able to get emergency vehicles in and out of all places. But he's of the opinion that we need an assessment on, and it would raise enough money for maintenance. However, the roads are in such bad condition, we probably also need a bond measure to get them up to the point where we have the roads at a place they can be maintained. Another priority for Matt, it has to do with how much 30 seconds left, how much how much it costs when a road goes out, so you prioritize those. Climate change, I've studied climate change for more than 20 years. It's real. There's going to be more frequent, more severe storms. There's going to be bigger waves. And 10 seconds left. We have to do long-term planning. We can't just react to things. We have to have a long-term plan. I'm out of time.
Managed retreat, yes or no?
Manage retreat, but you have to keep the homeowners happy too.
Okay. All right.
And I'm a specialist in coastal erosion as well.
Roads and which ones. So when you look at a pavement management index, there's, let's say, red, yellow, and green, right? The green roads are the roads that are in good condition. The yellow ones are pretty bad, and the red ones are really bad. And the red ones are the most expensive to fix. So prioritization should be on the ones that are yellow so that they don't become red. Otherwise, we're constantly reacting. We're never being proactive in our road repair. And so that's the first thing I want to point out. In terms of funding it, Measure K is coming, and that's a 1.5 cent sales tax that the county is putting on the ballot, and one of the things that includes is potholes, road repair, et cetera. And so that is something that we all need to consider is if we want nice things, we got to pay for them. Coastal erosion. Now, there will come a time when it's no longer safe for people to build or rebuild in the coastal zone where we are right now, and human health and safety should be our absolute #1 priority. That being said, it doesn't mean everyone is just out of luck. You need to pack up and move away. There are ways to create buffers to coastal erosion, including natural infrastructure, like building up dunes and wetlands, beach nourishment, that's additional sand that's dredged out of somewhere like the harbor to protect the waves from crashing against the bluffs, and then accommodation, building houses on stilts, raising them up, et cetera, so that they're more resilient to flooding. So there are options for us here that isn't just time to retreat, although managed retreat is going to be what we are going to have to face in the future. In the meantime, these are the options we have available.
Okay. All right, let's take them maybe in reverse order. Managed retreat. I don't think the government should have any say on whether you retreat from your house or not. So this should be the owner's responsibility to deal with any erosion or whatever that there is that to be there. We're not going to pay for putting in walls to save people's homes. They can maybe do those. So we have to be clear about our objectives here. Do we allow these people to do what they need to do to save their homes? I think we should. Okay. In terms of the roads, we need a better plan because I don't see the county doing any maintenance on the roads. If we maintain the roads, they'll last longer. But we've already missed that opportunity. The roads are in such horrible conditions. We're not talking about maintenance now. We're talking about replacing your roads. We need to replace roads that are falling apart, that are in such bad shape. And yes, we need to use some measure to find out what are the worst roads. We not only need to look at the worst roads, we need to look at the roads that are most traveled because we're all driving on these roads and you hit those potholes and you lose a tire. People are telling me they're taking their cars in to be repaired because the roads are in horrible shape. We have to understand that the roads are the key to our economy, really. Think about it. Everything we do, you have to get somewhere to do it, or you have to have somebody get where they were coming from to you to do it. So we need to take care of these things. Third question. Again, please. What was
The question was which roads you would fix
Oh, which
first.
roads? All of them.
Okay, and also about funding it, right? That's a big question about funding it. Kristen's saying Measure K, right? So that's coming. Right?
I don't know. Measure K is just $10 million that goes into the budget, right? It's not targeted towards any of these things. They want to tell us that that's where they want to spend it. That's not what I would do. If I said I was going to spend something on something, I would do that. But that's not the way it's done right now. We're going to put $10 million into the budget. Guess where it's going to go? It's your guess. Nobody knows.
Okay, so you're against
bring that
Measure K.
after.
All right, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I'll just address that. This is a general tax, so it goes into the general fund. And that means that it requires a 51%, a majority vote, right, to get passed. Otherwise, if it's a specific tax, a special tax, it requires a 2/3 vote or 66% vote. And so if we want to ensure that we can get the money that we need to address that, it's got to be a tax, and the law prevents us from giving it any kind of requirements because it's a general tax, so it goes into the general fund. That being said, the County Board of Supervisors can and has passed a resolution saying this is our intent for this funding.
Anyone else want to comment on that? A few seconds. I don't know how many.
Not on
minutes,
that,
like
but I'd
30?
like to comment on a couple of things that were said. First of all, the candidates are all fantastic. You're going to have a tough time choosing between us. It's true. So David, when you talk about walls, you put up a wall in front of your house or on the beach, it affects your neighbors. It causes erosion on either side. So you can't just do things unilaterally. And Kristen, your solutions for stilts and dunes, more East Coast solutions than West Coast solutions. But I agree with you that be creative, innovative.
Yep, you're next. I didn't plan for this, but here we go. It's all good.
So kind of the core of my candidacy is holding people accountable and looking to where things have not been done well. I think our general plan has not been done well, and we're trying to kind of fix things as they go. So we need to find out, I think we need to go backwards and deconstruct a lot of the things that have been done and find out why we are in the situation that we're in now. Where have we been wasteful? I know for a fact that there's been abuse of funds out there that are available for all sorts of things, and that the money has not been used efficiently. So I think we need to go backwards a little bit and look at why are we in the position that we're in before we start making plans about going forward.
Thank you. Good. I was about to cut you off.
Oh.
You did it well. Kim, yep, did you want to?
Can I answer?
Of course.
Instead of rebutting?
No, you can say, oh yeah, that's right, you haven't even answered.
No, I haven't answered.
Whoa, I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
No,
We
that's
got
okay.
involved. Sorry. You get to answer and rebut.
Okay, so like many people have already talked about up here, our roads are in very poor shape, and it is a lack of overall maintenance over the years that have led the roads to fail in many areas. One of the roads that I'm really concerned about is out on Eureka Canyon, and I know it's not heavily traveled, but it's completely washed out and needs to be repaired. Our road also washed out, and there's many areas on Trout Gulch Road. I called the roads department. They sent somebody out, and he was a supervisor, and he drove it with me, and I pointed out all the areas that needed repair, and they actually started to repair them until they ran out of money, and so now all projects are completely halted. So that's very disappointing. We'll have to go out for a bond, like Matt Machado said, to continue our work until FEMA can reimburse us, because we have not been reimbursed for much of the storms that have come through. So I don't think it's just climate change. I also think it's just a lack of maintenance, and that has to do everything to do with our county's revenue. So at 13 cents on every dollar of property tax that is paid in is what the county gets in revenue, and that is not a lot of money. So I know many of us up here want to change that, and we'll work with our elected representatives to do that, John Addis and Gail Pellerin, John Laird. We hope to really change that so we have more revenue coming in. With regard to managed retreat, part of our revenue for the county is in TOT, or transient occupant tax, and many of our coastal homes bring in a lot of money because people love to come here and stay here. So I'm not a fan of managed retreat right now. I think climate change will declare itself at some point, but I think we need to preserve people's properties and help rebuild our infrastructure along the coastline. Thank you.
Great. You want a few seconds. Anything left of the rebuttals? Are you good?
I think I'm okay.
Okay, all right, excellent. Okay, I want to switch topics now. I want to talk about mental health. In the past year, the state has passed a lot of unprecedented mental health reforms, including mandating the care courts. Those allow judges to order a care plan for people with untreated mental illness and to enroll them in treatment programs. So the county has got to implement them, right? The state mandates it, and then it's up to the county to figure out how to put it in place. Basically, it's a huge, controversial, unfunded mandate, and that has not yet been enacted at all in Santa Cruz County. So I'm wondering, and we're going to start with you, Bruce, how will you implement this, and will there be a mental health facility coming to District 2? And if there's not, if so, how will you get the community to accept that? And if not, how are you going to build consensus on the board to put it in someone else's district? Because it's got to go somewhere. Right, we got to build these. So that's my question. Start with Tony. I know Tony is going to.
Yeah, Tony's going to talk about this.
Not intentionally, too.
And Kim de Serpa knows a lot about this as well. I know less. This is the type of thing where consensus building is critical. I'm very good at consensus building, collaboration. I've learned that on the Soquel Creek Water Board, and great things can be done. You start at a very grassroots level, person to person, and you talk honestly. And from that, then you move to the higher levels, not higher levels, but different levels, where then you act in terms of your positions. So I can't answer that question right now. I wish I could. I'm sure everybody would like an answer to that, but I think it's going to take a lot of consensus building. And I have 30 seconds left, but I'm going to stop.
Excellent.
Thank you. So I think the questions about the implementation of the care courts, it's a state-mandated program, as you mentioned, and it's going to require some funding that we don't have right now. So that's going to be one of the things we have to figure out is where do we get the funding to implement this program. It's going to require that we find treatment beds. It's going to require that we find facilities. It's going to require that we have a fully funded Health and Human Services department to help make this happen. And so those are all budget issues, right? That's what this is. It's a budget issue. But what I heard in your question that I think is inherent in part of the issue in getting people mental health treatment, but the question was, how do you get people to accept a mental health treatment facility in the district? And that is part of the stigma around people getting treatment for mental health at all. Mm-hmm. And people will not seek treatment for mental health as long as there's a stigma around doing so. And so we need to address that. And so my answer to that part of the question is, how do you get people to accept that there will be a mental health facility potentially in District 2 at some point, is to address that stigma, because people need mental health care and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then we have.
I don't like mandates. I don't think the state should mandate anything to the county. The county should push back and say, wait a minute. You want something from us, you've got to give us something. We can't just do this on our own. We don't have the money to do it. We can't fix our roads. We don't have the money to do practically anything. In fact, our budget, they're expecting to spend almost $50 million more than they're going to receive this year. Where is that money going to come from? So now the mandate's going to, the state wants to mandate these care centers. More than half of our budget is already spent on Health and Human Services, and that apparently we're not doing enough. I think we need to collaborate more with other agencies, other nonprofits, other people that can do this stuff as well. Because we're not going to have the money to do that, but maybe if we had something to contribute, we could have somebody else helping out with this to do this. Now, whether we put it in someone's neighborhood or not, we've got to go out there and we've got to talk to these people that live there. And we say, oh, it's going to be here. It may be next to you. Do you care? What about 2 blocks away? What about 4 blocks away? We can't just go around the one block and say, is this okay with you guys? And everybody says, oh, yeah, sure. And then they build it, and then 2 blocks away or 4 blocks away, they go, hey, we've got to deal with these people, and you don't know what it's like. So we've got a little more thinking to do on this, and part of it is going to be pushing back to the state, saying, look, mandates, let's see some money. Let's see some help.
Okay. Thanks. Kim?
So as a licensed clinical social worker, I've essentially devoted my entire career to helping people, from birth all the way through end of life and everything in between. What I see our homeless population as a failure of our society to protect the most vulnerable among us. And I think our governor feels the same way, and that's why he's made this a cornerstone of his administration. I was very saddened and dismayed to see that our current Board of Supervisors deferred action on legislation that was signed and put into effect to conserve people with serious addiction and mental health problems. And we've deferred that program for 2 years when the governor has asked counties to act on that now. Some people, not all people, but some people need help. They need to be coaxed into treatment. They need to be housed in a housing first model. And so our county has decided to defer that, mostly I think because of the cost. So I would support programs like that. In terms of housing, many of these people, once they're brought into treatment, once they get medication on board and have case managers and support working with them, they can be housed in regular housing in studios or one bedrooms. And we'll probably talk more about that, but our county will be building a lot of housing for everybody, people with mental health problems and people like us, right? There'll be a lot of housing built, so hopefully we'll be housing people that are most vulnerable soon. Thank you.
So this is in particular why I'm in this race. Because I experienced extreme, egregious abuse of funds, and it's hard to say. It's really bad. And I don't want to be too specific here tonight, but I've given all the information I have about what happened in my neighborhood, and Lookout has it, Sentinel has it, everybody has it, so you'll see the information coming out. I think the important thing to look at is transparency, because what happened in our neighborhood was they bought a house, they didn't tell anybody, they took over $1 million of state funding to put in a program that absolutely was not legal as mandated by the grant. So we found that out. We asked them questions, and they were completely dishonest with us from the get-go. So when we knew they were being dishonest, we did a FOIA request and got all the emails between the service organization that owns the property and the county. And what we saw was them conspiring to be dishonest, to lie to the public so that they could keep the money, keep the property, and put in this program that I think would be great in the right place, but it does not belong with an 8-bed facility in a residential neighborhood, period. And it was all because they were absolutely dishonest. So we can't do that.
Good, thanks so much. Again, this is the question, right? What I asked again, we came back to this question of stigma and learning, and you're right. There were some issues with that. There were some really big problems that should be coming out. So it's good that we've all brought that to the attention. But again, where do you build? How do you, as a supervisor, where do you do it? How do you do it? These are all good questions. I want to move on, and I want to ask a question that is also on the mind of someone in the audience, and that's about South County. So our audience member asks, what are you, each candidate, doing to address voters in Pajaro and Watsonville? And how will you represent the concerns of student voters, working class, and dreamers? And I want to add on to that just a tiny bit. You guys have got the habit already that I have long questions. But there are 2 projects in Watsonville that are really crucial to our community, and that is Watsonville. This is not a pop quiz, I'm going to tell you. All right. It could be. But anyway, okay. Watsonville Hospital and obviously the Pajaro levee. Right? We saw that last year, historic flooding. So Zach Friend, the outgoing supervisor, had played a huge role in that, in shoring up, both of those literally shoring up, those with his contacts through state and nationwide. So I'm just wondering, so the audience question, how will you represent them? And my question is, how are you going to step into that role? What are the contacts that you have maybe that you think you can replicate what Zach had been doing for those two major projects? You're looking quizzical.
Yes, I kind of missed the first part,
Oh.
but I'll listen to
Catch
it.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, is that clear? Was that clear? Got it? Who's up? I think it's Kristen. I think it's you. And you are shaking your head, so that's good that you got it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right, good.
All right, I think I got it. So, addressing the needs of South County. So for the last 9 years, I've been on the board of directors and the board treasurer for the Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, which is located in Watsonville, provides a lot of great services there. It's a wonderful organization. I'm also a member of the Pajaro Valley Cesar Chavez Democratic Club and was endorsed by that club. I care very deeply about the issues in South County and throughout the district. Addressing the needs of the working class, of students, of renters. I was just out of finishing my undergraduate degree when I ran for city council in 2016. I have always been and remain a renter. My husband and I, for the last 6 years, have lived in a 450 square foot, one bedroom apartment in Capitola Village with our dog and our cat. So I completely understand the needs of working class, renters, and the like. I want to hear from those in South County who feel that they have not been heard. I think it's incredibly important to hear those voices. Measure N is the measure that will fund improvements to Watsonville Hospital, including the potential to buy the property that the hospital is on. The community raised the money to buy the business, but not the property, and so some company out of state owns it right now. We need to be able to buy that property. That's Measure N. Advocacy at the state and federal levels. I have worked with our state elected officials. I've worked for Congressman Jimmy Panetta. Just recently, when the budget was released and it looked like some money was going to be pulled back from the city of Capitola, some of our state legislators were reaching out to me to let me know that we needed to start working on these things together. So I built those relationships. I'm ready to bring the advocacy with those elected officials to the 2nd District.
I think South County is like our redheaded stepchild. You know, we don't treat them well. We don't communicate well. I've walked through the district. I've met with people that live there and work there, and it's surprising how few people actually vote from South County because they don't feel that their vote does anything for them. We need to do something about that. I'm learning Spanish. I want to be able to communicate with them. I'm going to be speaking with more and more of them, and I'm trying to get people to understand that they need to get out and vote. They need to let their voices be heard because we need to hear them. And we can't ignore that anymore. The levy thing, that thing's been going on for years. Why hasn't something been done? It's finally going to be done, but is it going to be done right? I don't know. You know, we've got engineers from the government working on that, U.S. government, but they are the ones that built it. So can we really believe that this is not going to be an ongoing problem again and again and again? How many times has it flooded? How many times are we going to let that go on? And why aren't we prepared for that in advance? The things that bother me about this kind of stuff is like when I go to work and there's a flood and there's a sign that's like right in front of the water, right? You've already driven 2 miles to get there and now you go turn around, go back. We need better planning. We need better work. Thank you.
Well, my 14 years on the Pajaro Valley Unified School District have prepared me well to work on behalf of District 2 and in Watsonville. Pajaro Valley Unified goes all the way into Monterey County. We have 3 schools in Monterey County, and I often work with the county supervisors on that side to bring equity to our families in the Pajaro. I've also worked directly with COPA over the years to build streetlights in the Pajaro area. And in fact, just recently I was dismayed because Monterey County staff had recommended $2 million come into the district to help repair the fields at Pajaro Middle School, which were damaged when the levee breached. And unfortunately, the county supervisor, Glenn Church, said no. Pajaro Valley has a huge budget. We have a $30 million budget that I've been governing for the last 14 years. He said, you guys have too much money. We're not going to give you anything. And they didn't, which is such a shame. I'm very close and collaborate well with my colleagues that are on the city council in Watsonville, and I have the relationships that will help support everybody. In the Pajaro Valley, we have increased literacy rates for kids and youth 63%. We've brought art and music back to the schools, and we've done a lot of amazing things in terms of building healthcare centers right on the campuses. We've brought equity to Pajaro Valley High School by building their track and field, and I feel really proud of that work. Thank you.
I tried to gather from what each of them said what the question was, like specifically.
I can repeat
and it was
it
all
if you'd
over the
like.
place. So I'm going to go
Do
without
you want me
getting.
to repeat it?
If you could.
Sure. Okay, the two parts of the question are from our audience. They want to know what you as a candidate are going to be doing for voters in Pajaro and Watsonville, and how you're going to represent them. And also, I wanted to know about the two main projects, the hospital and the levee, and that to step into Zach's shoes is a big lift in that he had a lot of state and federal connections that helped really get some funding going for that project. So how are you going to do that?
Okay.
To make sure that these really vital projects succeed.
So I'll say to start that that Zach Friend was part of the problem that we experienced in our neighborhood. So I'm not a big fan of his. I voted for him a long time ago, and I've met with him on a few different occasions, and what I found was that he was not helpful, especially when it didn't service his agenda. So
Well, okay, but this isn't a personal
I
question
know,
about you.
I know.
This is broadly about the hospital and the levee.
I'm going to go back to the levee. Obviously, that's been a long-standing problem, and we need to manage it. And there's obviously, if it were the expensive houses on the beach that are going to get fixed, then it probably would get done. But for some reason, it's not getting done there. I'm going to go back to kind of the basics of my platform, which is, why are we in the situation that we're in? How do we get to these places where we don't have any money? I hear about bond measures. I pretty much vote no on all bond measures because they just keep coming and coming, and it doesn't seem to improve anything. So I'm not really excited about like getting taxed more in order to pay for things that should have been planned years ago. So our long-term plan is not working well, and so I guess that's all I got.
All right. Anyone have anything to say about bond measures? Do they not work quickly? Okay, well, we'll get back. I guess we'll let Bruce answer, and then I think we're back at the beginning.
Like
Thanks.
anything else, a bond
Good.
measure has to be good for it to work. Long-term planning. I heard Tony talk about that. We have to do more of it. It's easy to get caught in the day-to-day and not put the energy that you need to in the long-term planning that, in the long run, saves money. In terms of South County, I rely on people I know. I know one of the teachers at Pajaro Valley High School, and he's very forthcoming with issues in the South County, and I'm becoming more aware of them. I think at a really basic level, one thing that I would like to do is I'd like to have open office hours at different locations in the county, and one of the prime places would be South County. As a matter of fact, my campaign opener was in Watsonville. So in terms of empathy, I've been a renter most of my life. I think I counted 27 different places I've lived at. And so I get that, you know, what the issues are in South County.
Okay, Kim, did you say you wanted to say something about bonds?
What I was going to say is that in 2012, the school district went out for a $150 million bond, and it was the people of Watsonville that helped us push that over the top. The voters there, the families at Pajaro Valley High School in particular, because that bond allowed us to bring equity to that high school so that we could build out their track and field. What they don't have still is a performing arts center, and we'd like to put one in there at some point. But I feel really grateful to the families and to the voters of Watsonville who actually helped us to champion that bond. Our facilities in the Pajaro Valley, many of them, not many of them, but a lot of them are old. Like some of them are, like Valencia Elementary is 100 years old. Like we have crumbling infrastructure at these school sites and no money from the state to fix those. So these bonds are really important to try to bring facilities that are equitable, that are safe and beautiful for our kids and for our staff and teachers.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on. I want to ask a question about housing. I have to do it, right? I have some from the audience as well. Obviously, people are struggling under the huge cost of housing. Santa Cruz, one of the most expensive places to live in the country. Is there a role there for the Board of Supervisors to play? What is your view about building dense, affordable housing in your district? And do you support rent stabilization? That's a combination of something I was going to ask and something that came from the audience. Okay, I need help. Where are we? Kristen? Okay, no. Okay, sorry.
Wow, I get to start. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Density. You know what? We probably don't need as much density as they want to do. 7-story buildings in everybody's neighborhood makes no sense to me. So, yeah, we need more affordable housing. How do we do that? Mini homes, ADUs, let's say manufactured homes, that kind of stuff. Why can't we let people put a manufactured home on a property? It doesn't have to have a foundation. It can go in like that. You can have a house. In fact, I saw one just the other day, $35,000, you can have a house. I mean, doesn't that sound affordable? Yeah. So we can do a lot. We just have to be a little more creative about this. Let's stop with the mandates about all these permits and all these other things that you have to be able to do something to live in, right? So, yeah, we've got a lot to do here, and we can do it. I mean, all we have to do is have the will to do that, and I can get that going, let me tell you. We're gonna take that planning department, and we're gonna turn it upside down. We're gonna say, look, no more need for a permit to replace a window or a door or the simple little things that people need in their homes, right? And then, yeah, if you wean off the school districts and the fire districts and all the other districts from these permit fees, is which we're going to have to do to make them cheaper, then maybe we got a chance. There's where we start.
Great. Kim, you're up.
So, in a nutshell, I do support dense, affordable housing along transit lines where the infrastructure is already available and it's cheaper to build. So yes, I do support that. I agree with David in part regarding the permitting and the planning department. I think everybody knows that's been a big problem for a long time, and that's one of the #1 complaints I hear from people that I talk to on the campaign trail. I just was at a party recently to meet me, and a couple, really nice couple, she's a therapist, and I can't remember what he does, but they have an ADU in their backyard that's a foot off of like where the property line is, and the county has asked them to demolish that unit that their adult son and daughter-in-law and children live in. And the neighbors don't care. The neighbors are fine with it, but the county's red tagged it because it's too close to the border, to the property line. Like, that's just ridiculous. So I gave them some ideas about how to fight that based on what I've learned so far. We have people in this room who have changed legislation for the better. Thank you, Mondo. In terms of being able to build in your backyard, an ADU, et cetera, et cetera. So we need many, many different types of housing in this county. There's not a one-size-fits-all. We need stuff in backyards, we need density along transit lines, and I look forward to that. And if anybody has a spare room or a property, consider putting it into the Section 8 program. We've done that, and it's the right thing to do for people who have Section 8 vouchers. Thanks.
So housing has everything to do also with managing mental health and drug addiction and things like that. I believe in housing first. However, if we're just gonna, there's just a mandate, and mandates, I think, produce inefficiencies because we're gonna cut corners because the county's gonna believe that we need to cut corners in order to meet this mandate. I think that our county can cut some corners already, as we've talked about. They're kind of a nightmare. I've been in the mortgage business for 30 years. I'm also a general contractor. Once they have affordable housing, I'll tell you, it's really hard to get people into it. I think there was one property recently, there was a list of people 16 deep, and I think the 16th one finally came up. The other ones didn't qualify because they don't know what they're doing when they're qualifying these people, the city or county. So I think they finally just went, God, we got to get somebody in there, and it happened. I do also know that to build a ADU in your backyard, there's people out there advertising. They're somewhere close to $300,000 to $400,000 to build. We talked about that in our district, and the fact that the water district was charging $33,000 for another water hookup, but apparently they've changed that. So it's got to be part of a bigger general plan. We can't just start putting density in places just to solve the problem. We really need to take a longer look.
Affordable housing. It'd be nice if all the new housing was affordable. It's a pipe dream. Developers develop to make money. There's a percentage of affordable housing that is at 15%. I would support 20%. San Francisco went up to 25%, and they backed down because the developers were not developing because they were not making the profit they needed. But at a very basic level, we would have no new housing, no affordable housing, if the Soquel Creek Water District had not had the foresight to develop a new supplemental water supply to raise water levels and keep seawater intrusion from polluting the aquifer. We've done that. It's going to go online later this year. So that action by the Soquel Creek Water District, of which I'm the president of the board now, allows us to have affordable housing. The other thing that I support, and several people have mentioned it here, is cutting the red tape. Is there a way to make it so that the red tape is less for affordable housing? I would totally support that.
All right, so there's a number of things that can be done to address the affordable housing issue here in the county. One is that we need to zone for the development. You can't build housing on land that isn't zoned for housing, so that's one thing right there. I do support additional density specifically at transit stops. So at the Metro Transit District, we are building affordable housing at our transit stations on the Pacific Avenue station and out in Watsonville at the station there, and the people who live there will get free transit passes. So it's transit-oriented, high-density development. That's incredibly important. Additionally, we need to, as already mentioned by several of my peers here, is remove the barriers to development, the red tape, the costs for a brand new septic system if you just want to add on to what you already have on your property. And then we need a fully staffed, fully funded planning department, because we can't get these permits through, we can't get this red tape cut unless we are fully staffed at the planning department at the county. And then in terms of the question about rent stabilization, the state has a certain level of rent stabilization, the county has a certain level of rent stabilization, and in this past year, I successfully advocated and ensured that the city of Capitola now has a mobile home rent stabilization ordinance as well. Outside of that, we need to invest in community-based organizations that provide for rental and eviction assistance and other options and opportunities for those who are facing a potential loss of their home or inability to pay for their rent or their mortgage. That kind of investment in community services is incredibly important, and it's something that the county supervisors have the ability to do when looking at their community grant funding.
Okay, great. Yeah, we started. Okay, all right. This is an audience question. We don't have that much time left. I'm hoping to get this one and then one more question in. Quickly, could you talk about, a lot of people want to know about your stance on the rail trail. So could you maybe take 60 seconds, can we do 60, to do just like, where do you stand on it? It's coming from the audience, so we want to know that. I mean, that's obviously a question that people care about. So whose turn is it? Kim, is it you? No, where are we, Kim? Yeah. We're back to Kim.
So I support both, and I always have. I would really like to see a trail built as soon as possible and a rail built as soon as possible. I know there are some rumors and some people talking about the fact that I'm not for a rail. That's not true. I've always been for some kind of clean transit. I don't know what the technology is going to look like by the time it's built, but I really do support it. In our area in Aptos, we've been talking about this for a long, long time, and there's no way to get into the village unless you basically drive a car. I really want to see a trail built as soon as possible in the mid-county, and that'll connect us down to Watsonville and to Monterey County, frankly. It's time, and I want to see this project completed as soon as possible. Thanks.
I'm for it in concept. The trail as soon as possible, because people will likely take advantage of that. The rail is a futuristic thing that we should look forward to, but if it's going to cost us any money or deter money from going to other places like roads that need to be taken care of, then no. If it's going to take a bond measure where we're going to hit people, I think the trail actually has funds, and they can actually do that at this point.
Mm-hmm. Some of it, well, not all of it. It's,
yeah.
Money.
What's that? There's some. So I think the issue is we have to get people to move away from their cars. We are a society that relies on instant gratification and being able to get in their car and drive. So we need some public-private incentive, maybe, a combination, to get people to get to work on bikes.
Like Tony, I support the rail in concept, and I also support the trail. There's a regional transportation commission is doing a study on the feasibility of the rail, and I reserve the right, depending on whether the results of that study show that it's feasible or not, to change my opinion. But that having been said, I'm an avid biker. I've biked segments of the existing trail that have already been built, and it's a wonderful way to get around. It reduces stress for me, and I totally support the trail, and in concept, I support the rail.
Thank you. So as I mentioned previously, I'm the new chair of the Regional Transportation Commission, and I've been on the board for the last 3 years, so this is something that I've been following very closely, and my thoughts and my opinions and my consideration on this have evolved over time. I'm supportive of both passenger rail and the trail. As mentioned, the RTC is expecting a project concept report to come late this year or early next year, and it's going to talk about funding, rail alignment, how everything's going to work, what the fare box recovery is going to be, just a whole plethora of information about this project. At the February 1st RTC meeting, we are going to have our first kind of preview of that, our project's purpose and need statement. And so stay tuned for that. But yes, I'm supportive of this. In order to prevent people from having to take single occupancy vehicle travel, they need alternatives. And that alternatives are the Metro Transit system, and hopefully in the future, it will be clean electric passenger rail.
Has my time started yet? Okay. I have a hard time supporting something like this because I'm looking at the money, right? We got $100 million to do the first 10 miles of this trail rail thing, okay? My wife and I actually spent some time. We went over to the trail. We walked the trail. There were like 10 people on the trail. We walked down to the Esplanade area. There was like 1,000 people on that. Maybe it's just not built yet. Maybe it's okay having a trail that goes by the water treatment plant. I don't know. You want to see that? Take a walk down there. There's sidewalks all over the place. There's lots of places for people to ride bikes and walk. Why are we spending so much money on this? If you really want it, then let's put a plan together. Let's make it happen. But we're going to be spending tons of money for this that could be spent for other things.
Great. Okay. Great. We're all yes. All right. Thanks so much. I'm gonna ask one.
Can I say something?
Oh, okay. We're running late on
Yeah,
time. but-
real quickly. So David, yeah, we have to pay for things, there's no doubt about it. But I'll just say that the Pure Water Soquel project, we were crazy for embarking upon that. But we got $100 million in state and federal grants. So don't close the door on things that you think should happen until you need to.
Okay. All right.
$100 million to the hospital then. Where's the state?
Okay. Right.
Let's tax everybody. And let's throw a half cent sales tax on it. And then let's put assessments on it. Where does it end? Where do they stop asking for more and more and more? We don't stop doing anything, do we? We don't look at whether we've made any benchmarks or whether they're actually doing anything for anybody. We're just saying, oh, if we do more of this and we keep spending more, we can actually do something else. Well, let's find other ways to do it. We have lots of partners out there that are more efficient than we are. Let's do that.
Anyone want to say anything to that? I do have one last question I want to ask, but go ahead.
I'll just say very briefly that a lot of the funding that's going towards the passenger rail and trail program is funding from the state or from the federal government designed to fund passenger rail or to fund pedestrian trails. That's what this money is for. So it's not like if we didn't use it for a train, we could put it for something else. That's what this money is dedicated from the state for. So that's what we're using it for.
Okay. Okay.
So,
that's-
wait, one more thing. So the RTC knows this, and in their proposal, they're saying we could have a train if there was a company came up that said we would put in a train. We're not going to do it. Somebody else is going to do that. That's in their own proposals.
This issue remains, right? Still, we can't get rid of it in this community. It's still going to be forever and ever and ever. All right, my last question, we really do have to keep going, but my very last question, and I'll ask you to keep it short, too, because I'm running a little late. But there's been a lot of criticism, or we've heard, criticism about the Board of Supervisors, that it's kind of operating on autopilot, that it's really the county staff that pushes the agenda, and it's not the electeds. So I'm wondering about that, like what you think of those criticisms, first of all. And second of all, and again, I want to know specific policies or asks or directives that you think right at the beginning of your term you're going to ask for. So again, what we're asking you, I'm trying to help differentiate you between each other for our voters. So if you could help us by saying what are the first three things or what are the three main things that you're going to ask for right away when you get in, that would be great. So again, is the Board of Supervisors running on autopilot, and what could be done about it, and what are you going to do when you first get there? I do not know who we're on. Tony? Help us keep us honest here. Okay.
Okay. So I've, in my dealings with the situation that I'm in, I have gone to board meetings, and they are the most frustrating thing I've ever been to. You're talking at these people, and they are staring at you like, like they've got 10 other things on their mind. So I've talked to some of the other candidates about changing the process of the board meetings. Maybe change the time. 9 o'clock in the morning is hard for a lot of people to get to. And at least at some point, once every couple of months, where the board actually has to respond to your issues, because they just stare at you. And you can say whatever you want. And some people don't get They go there every week, and, some of the stuff's a little crazy. Actually answer their question. One time, just answer their question.
Okay, at a time.
Okay.
Answer their question. That's it. Okay.
So my magic wand, 3 things. I think the planning department needs a lot of help. So revising
Okay.
the planning
Planning
department.
department.
I think that the roads, we need to encourage the staff more so to work outside of our county to find additional resources for the roads. And the third thing, I'm going to leave it at that.
All right.
So I will start by saying that as an elected official, I can tell you that there's so much going on behind the scenes outside of just those meetings, and the staff works incredibly hard to ensure that the electeds have all the information that they need to try to make the best decisions that they can. So you've got to give some credit to county staff, to municipal staff. They are overworked and underpaid, I guarantee you. In addition, the 3 things that I really want to work on, yes, the planning department, it needs to be funded. The planning and health and human services departments, first and foremost, we need to figure out how to fully fund those departments, make sure that they are fully staffed, because a lot of the stuff that's coming to us around housing, around care courts, around social services are going to go through those 2 departments, so we got to get them fully funded, fully staffed. I want to continue on transportation investments in transit, on the RTC, and on our roads. And then I want to get more youth in government. I did that on Capitola City Council. I got youth on all of our boards and commissions. Supervisor Felipe Hernandez now has the Young Supervisors Academy in his district, and I want to see it in our district. We got to prepare the next generation of community leaders, and it starts now.
That's good. Okay, just to be clear, I wasn't saying county staff weren't working hard. I was saying they're working really hard, and maybe, we need to push our electeds to push the agenda a little more too.
And I think you're right. I think the county really does just run on autopilot most of the time. If you look at, I'm going to the meetings and I'm looking at the agendas, I'm reading the agendas, I'm downloading the entire agenda package. If you've ever done that, you'll find 700, 900, 1,100, 1,800 pages. Now, I've written to them, and here's a trick. Now, if you go to the agenda, you can actually make comments and they will respond to you. You can actually do that on their website. You can write to them. If you write a day before, they will respond. It might take them 6 weeks, but you'll hear, right? But we need to have more attendance at these meetings, and I think that's a good idea, Tony. We should have some meetings other times. 9 o'clock in the morning once in a while, maybe 6 at night, 5 at night, some other times, so that more people can come. And so just talk to your representatives. Say, look, I'd like to be able to come to the meetings, but I can't make it at 9 in the morning during the work week. I have a job. I've got to live. So let's do something different.
Okay, thank you. All right, last few minutes. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Kim. I'm sorry.
Kim.
I guess because it goes to that end. I'm so
No,
sorry.
that's
Thank
okay.
you in the audience.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
Kim.
Well, much of what I'm going to say is similar to Tony. I'll just say that the Board of Supervisors meeting is a private meeting held in public for transparency's sake, so they cannot answer you, right? So those of us who already serve in an elected position understand that. And so what I would change the first thing when I get into office is I would restore funding for the long-term care ombudsman program, which is the voice for vulnerable senior citizens in all facilities in this county. That was defunded, and that was wrong. So I would start with that. I'd also, along those lines, continue to plan for senior issues. I served an internship at the Administration on Aging in Washington, D.C. after graduate school, and I feel really that's a close issue for me, our senior citizens in the county. I would change the planning department, and we need to hire the best and brightest so that we can move these projects along. And I would begin to work on economic vitality. We need to bring more revenue into this county, period, so that we can do the things that we want to do. I'm out of time, okay.
But I was trying to be nice because I forgot about you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, lightning round. We're just going to do really quick, one-word answers. You're all done. It's over. You can relax. Okay, except for these really, really hard questions. Are you ready for this? Wait, who's up? It was Bruce? Okay. Sunday afternoon, your house is being repaired, Bruce. You can't stay home. You have to go out somewhere. It's Santa Cruz. Where are you going? One word answer.
Bike ride.
Okay. Well, where? Where are you going? Which bike ride? Where? Coastal bike ride. All right. Kristen.
If it's low tide, we're lucky, Capitola Beach, walk all the way over to New Brighton.
All right. Seacliff. Kim. Nicene Marks. Can you guys hear that? All that? Nicene Marks. Okay.
Electric bike to the point.
Everyone's giving up on the microphone. Have we noticed? Okay. I'm just saying. Okay, ready? Who's next? Okay, Kristen, your favorite city in the world and one attribute you wish Santa Cruz could just take from them, from that city.
Santa Cruz County?
Yeah, Santa Cruz County.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of partial as the mayor of Capitola to saying that Capitola is my favorite city in the world, and it's within the district, so I don't know how to...
You can't say that.
I don't know how to argue that one.
Okay, second favorite city for you since you're the mayor of
Second
Capitola.
favorite... Oh, you guys, you're going to get me in
Whole
trouble
world,
with this one.
The whole world.
You're going to get me in trouble here. My second favorite city in the whole world is Las Vegas because there's always something to do.
All right, so Santa Cruz needs more to do. We got that. Okay, you heard it here. Okay. Same question.
My favorite city?
Favorite city in the world and what Santa Cruz could take from it.
You know, I hate to answer that because I haven't been to every city in the world yet.
Well, your favorite.
So how can you have a
your
favorite? Of all the places that we've
You
been
have
to?
been.
I would say Lahaina was my favorite city.
Okay, what could Santa Cruz learn from Lahaina?
How to deal with disasters.
Okay, right. All right. I don't know.
My favorite city is Antigua, Guatemala. After college at Humboldt State, I traveled all through Central America and Mexico and did immersion Spanish classes, etc. And that is a very beautiful city. And what I would take from there, they have during Easter week, Semana Santa, they have these beautiful sawdust carpets that they lay out all through the city, and then they march through them in a parade. It's just really beautiful. If you haven't been there, you should see it.
It's not one word, though, is it?
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, this is a slightly longer. Okay, it's like 2 or 3. Okay,
I'm
let's
not
go.
sure it's a city. Cinque Terre, Italy.
Okay.
Coastal resilience.
Woo. Okay. Coastal resilience.
I'm not a city person. Vienna, Austria, transportation system is amazing.
Yeah.
It's vibrant.
Cool.
People walk at all hours of the night.
Okay, last question. Believe it or not, you've made it. Living leader who inspires you. Whose turn is it? I'm lost. David. Living leader. There must be someone living who inspires a living leader.
I did. No, I was first.
I don't know. Whose turn is it?
It doesn't matter to me.
We've been lost. We're lost.
We could just all talk at once.
Yeah.
We could just all talk.
Who wants to go first?
Okay, sorry. Can you repeat the
Living
question?
leader who inspires you.
Living leader who there's a lot of really good living leaders. That's a tough one to just pick one right
sorry,
now.
pick one. Just pick one.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You're gonna have to come back to me. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I gotta
wait,
think
all
about
right,
this.
Sorry,
one. You're gonna have
sorry.
to come back
Okay,
to
who's
me.
got one? One living leader who inspires you. There are no good politicians out there anymore? Doesn't have to be even a politician. It could be anyone.
Rick Scott.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Let's go. Someone?
I look to women leaders for inspiration. We're fortunate we have 2 very well-prepared women who are on the dais today. I really admire Barbara Boxer for the work that she did.
Great.
And I really admire at Madeline Albright, but she's no longer living.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Great. Not a speech. Just one name. We all got it. But that's good. Last one.
That is hard.
It's hard. I know. I know. 3 more people, but Kim's done now.
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama.
Panetta's,
Panetta's.
both Leon and Jimmy.
My struggle is I kept wanting to say RBG, but you said living, so it was
Right.
really hard. Jennifer Seibel Newsom, the first partner.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion, this forum. Please give everyone a hand. Okay, thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. We'll take a short break, and then we'll be back with District 5. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good? Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay, good evening. Welcome to Lookout's primary election forum for the District 5 Santa Cruz County Supervisor seat. I'm Christopher Neely, Lookout's politics and policy correspondent. I also author our In the Public Interest newsletter, to which I'm sure all of you are not only loyally subscribed, but diligently read as well. So launching and running a campaign for public office, especially one that spans across such large swaths of the Santa Cruz Mountains, is not easy, nor is it cheap. But someone has to do it, and tonight we have the 4 people who answered the call to serve. Theresa Bond, right to my left, Christopher Bradford, Tom Decker, and Monica Martinez. And why don't we just give them a round of applause for doing this tonight. So a little about D5. Its southern boundary is around Water Street in Santa Cruz and stretches up north along Highway 9 and the west side of Highway 17, capturing Pasatiempo, Scotts Valley, as well as Felton, Ben Lomond, and Boulder Creek before reaching the Santa Clara County and San Mateo County lines. As the people on stage with me know, it is home to some of the most beautiful and definitely some of the more treacherous landscapes in the county. When we talk about the Feltons, the Ben Lomonds, and the Boulder Creeks, and all these great mountain communities, these are unincorporated communities without their own police force or city council. So county government is the most local form of government, and the District 5 supervisor is basically the mayor for these people. But unlike the mayors in Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley, Watsonville, and Capitola, the District 5 supervisor is a full-time job. And the person who earns the seat will be expected to give their full professional attention to conducting the public's business. A little rundown, it's going to run the same way as the last one. We're going to do 60-second openers. There's going to be a few questions from me, edited by Lookout staff, some audience questions, and then a lightning round. And again, we ask that you hold your applause so we can get through as many questions as possible tonight. And with that, we'll begin with Theresa.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. I am a mom. I live on the summit off of Highway 17. Because of where I live in unincorporated Santa Cruz County, my children attend school in Santa Clara County. I have been elected 3 times, twice to my elementary district, Lakeside, which is on Black Road, and once onto the Los Gatos-Saratoga Union High School District, which I sit on today. My jurisdiction is multi-county, Santa Clara and Santa Cruz, so I have 13 years of consecutive experience as a school board trustee. Where I live, we have it's like living off the grid today. We have multiple backups for everything. My children drive to Los Gatos down Highway 17, county roads to 17 to get to school. I have 2 children. They're both young adults. One is a 2022 graduate of UC Santa Cruz in environmental science, and I have a sophomore that is studying in Washington State.
Okay, we got 60 seconds, yep. And look to Ruby here. She's going to let you guys know how much time you have. All right, Chris.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming and participating. It really means a lot. This is how government gets done. My name's Christopher Bradford. I'm a resident of Boulder Creek, and I've got 6 children and a beautiful wife. That's a lot of kids, yes. I'm a software engineer, a small business owner, and I'm also on the board of directors for the Fire Safe Council. And I'm extremely passionate, about disaster preparedness, about fire mitigation, and about my community. I've worked hard to advocate for my community for years now, and I'm pursuing this seat because of what I experienced as a member of that community directly. I lost my home in the fires, and I worked hard fighting the county to get my family back home with my wife and my family, and it was worse than an uphill battle. Dealing with the county was a second disaster for my family, as it was for many families, and I want to change that, and it's important that we do. All right, thank you.
So my name is Tom Decker. I have 6 children, but 19 grandkids. If you wait long, yeah. Well, they started young.
You win on that.
I win. Huh? Anyway, I've lived in Ben Lomond for 20 years. I've been in the construction business building affordable houses for 40 years. Oh, you can't hear me in the mic? All right. So I've been in the construction business building affordable homes for 40 years. I've lived in Ben Lomond for 20 years. And we actually, in all the years we've lived in our county, we never built any houses there until the fire, because we never wanted to even go into that. Unfortunately, we did, and so now we're in the process of building 10 homes. We finished 3. We're finishing 7 more. Everything Christopher says is true. It's horrible. And that's why I'm doing it, because my customers said, isn't there a faster way to do it? And I said, well, maybe if I had a little bit more squeeze, it would work faster. So that's what started it. And I'm out of time.
Good evening. My name is Monica Martinez. I'm running for 5th District Supervisor, and I have 2 kids. I've been a public servant my entire life. It runs in my family. My dad's a retired fire captain, my mom's a retired elementary school teacher, and making a difference was a given in my family. But you know what wasn't a given in my family? Running for elected office. Because as a queer Latinx woman from Bakersfield, I never saw myself as electable. So I dedicated myself to public service in a different way, giving a voice to people who've been left behind, women, people experiencing homelessness, foster youth, people on the economic margins. And this work brought me to Santa Cruz County, where I'm the CEO of Encompass Community Services, our county's largest health and human services nonprofit. For over a decade, I've used public funding to navigate some of the most complex challenges in our community. I'm also a Felton resident, and I've experienced firsthand the challenges of living in the San Lorenzo Valley. So I'm running for 5th District Supervisor for the same reason I got into public service in the first place, to give a voice to those who've been left behind, because in the 5th District, we feel like we've been left behind. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to do some questions from me, edited by Lookout staff, and we're going to do it kind of forum style, but if there are rebuttals or someone wants to say something, we'll allow that as well. All right, so the first question, the dominant issue, or one of the dominant issues in District 5 and the Santa Cruz Mountains is natural disasters, as many of you brought up. Not only how do we respond and recover, but how do we prepare? No bigger challenge ahead of the next District 5 supervisor than the CZU rebuild. About 911 homes were destroyed in that fire, and only a fraction have been rebuilt. So first, and we'll start with Theresa and work our way down, do you see a path for all homes destroyed in the fire to be rebuilt and reoccupied? If yes, how? And if not, what will you do for the people who are unable to rebuild?
It's a big question. First of all, it's taken way too long to help many families, and trying to do it now will probably be unsuccessful for some. So at this point, those that we can help, I would like to see us designate some money specifically in the budget. And this is one of the things with the taxes that are coming up that I understand why everything needs to go into the general budget. I understand a majority versus a 2/3 requirement. But where that money is put, and for people who have lost their homes, I feel that we need to prioritize to do what we can and streamline the processes that have caused them so many obstacles, jumping through hoop after hoop, being turned down after turned down. And what we can do, we need to say they are number one right now. They don't have homes. They deserve our attention.
So if things are left to play out naturally, most of the folks who've lost their homes have lost them permanently. It took the county so long to respond, and to respond correctly. It still hasn't responded correctly, in my opinion. And so folks have used up the money that was paying for rent. Right? You only get that for so long, and after some time, you end up paying your mortgage and your rent. And unless you're an embarrassed millionaire, it's not happening. Folks are losing the homes that they invested in and losing the land that the home was on. What I would do for people is be a fierce advocate for them. I know for my family, we needed to take an SBA loan out to finish our property. And a lot of folks tried to get those loans. We were able to do it because we put our representatives to work. Gail Palarin, Jimmy Panetta, I called them. My wife called them. We harassed them. We were deeply involved in making sure our representatives contacted the SBA and fought for us. Not everyone has the ability to do exactly that, but the right person in that seat can be that advocate for them. And the person in that seat needs to be a bridge between the federal and state government and the folks down here at home. And so there's opportunity. There's a program right now in California for disaster recovery that's recently decided they'd be able to help people out to the tune of almost $250 million. It has a lot of funding, but no one can get any callbacks from these folks. No one is getting a response. So I'll be the one to ring that bell and get the response from my people.
So the CZU fire, I've been to about 250 of the lots. It turns out even though there's 936 lots, several of them have 2 and 3 and 4 houses. So we're really looking at 1,100 families. So 4 years ago, 1,100 families lost their homes. So far, 37 have been rebuilt. Even Christopher, who's in his house, still doesn't have his final yet, do you? And that could be weeks, months, years. So I've been building houses for 25 years. I built hundreds of homes. Most they're manufactured homes. They're built in a factory. We put them on sites. Probably 95% go in parks. Probably seen parks. But many of them go on parcels. So after a year of watching the fire not happening as far as rebuilding, we thought, well, let's start telling people what we do. You know, go up to Antioch and see our houses like that. We probably spoke with 100 people, of which, in the end, 2 drove all the way up to Antioch, because if you live here, you don't go to Antioch. And they ended up moving out of the state with their family. We put a house, our downtown Boulder Creek, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, which is our campaign headquarters, did it in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And that was with our part-time guys. It normally takes about a week and a half. Putting that same house on a parcel took 20 months. And we lost $100,000 doing it. I've done hundreds of these. I don't lose 100,000, but in this state, I did. I'm out of time.
And Tom, I just want to follow up. So do you see a path for all homes destroyed in the fire to be rebuilt and reoccupied?
Not at all. Not with the way it is structured now.
Okay.
It's designed not to. I have stories about this, but the answer is no.
Sure. Thank you.
So I want to start by acknowledging that the county's response to rebuilding has been completely unacceptable. And we can do better. We should do better. And I think it's bigger than just a CZU issue. It also impacts people who lost their homes through the winter storms last year. It's going to impact those who might lose their home in the future due to another disaster. We've got a systemic issue with our county planning department that we need to resolve. So the first thing I want to know is who is intending to rebuild? I want to ask the county for a census. We know we lost 911 homes, 1,100 families. Let's find out who is intending to rebuild, because once we have a list with name by name, every person, every address, we're accountable to them, okay? And we need to hold the county accountable to make measurable progress on that list. We need to cut the red tape. There's red tape at the local level and there's red tape at the state level. If there's something at the local level that we can do, we need to clear that out as soon as we can, okay? These setback requirements we heard a previous speaker talk about, we gotta clear that. If it's state, we need to work with our state representatives to help our neighbors get back in their homes. I feel like if we don't do something now, we're all going to be next, right? We're all going to have to face the planning department. We're all going to face disasters. We've got to create a better system today for the future of this county. Thank you.
Thanks. And Monica, do you see a path for all homes destroyed in the fire to get rebuilt?
Right as it stands, no, I don't. That's why I want to know who's intending to rebuild, and I want to help them because they deserve to get back in their homes as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks. And this next one, we'll start with Chris. Oh, sure, Chris, yep. 10 seconds.
I'll be quick. I think what Monica said about red tape is right on target. We need to remove that. But this idea of a list of persons who want to rebuild, every single person who lost their home wanted to rebuild. Every single one. The folks who aren't rebuilding are not rebuilding because they couldn't, not because they didn't want to. You know, so what we need to do is address all of the people who lost their homes and do what we can for them.
Can I say something on that? 'Cause I agree with Chris on that.
And Tom, if you can hold the mic a little closer.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the home that it took me 20 months to rebuild, which is an exact model of the home that took me 3 weeks to build, when we finally got it done, after going through every hoop, everything, I'm finally there. We have the final someday. We have the final. I had the inspector, and he's looking around. What else can I call? Nothing else. So finally he signs it, And then he looks around, he says, this is a pretty good house. I'm glad we did this. And I'm thinking, that's kind of like being in a concentration camp, having someone beating you with a pole for 2 years and then saying, I'm glad we did this.
Thanks, Tom. Wrap it up. Thank you. All right. Chris, for you, so for the homes that you believe can be rebuilt and may get rebuilt, do you think you can help the process move along faster than it has? If so, how, and how will you do that in your first term? And please be specific as possible.
Okay. Absolutely. A big part of our problem right now with the process moving forward is arbitrary standards that are unevenly applied. It's a cultural issue within the planning department. Depending on what inspector shows up and on what day, you may get a different answer or a different result. I know this from the work I've done with other fire families who are trying to recover. So what we need is a consistent approach. We need to start with a yes and not go looking for no's. That's what happens now. Let's take a look at this build. Let me find something wrong with it to stop this person from moving forward, instead of finding opportunities to get people into their homes. So I would start by changing that culture, by leading from the front, and by being deeply connected and present. And that's what's important. Folks want to do the right thing, right? You have to empower them. You have to make the right thing the easier thing to do. And you can do that by being there, telling them what it is that you need, and setting those expectations. Right? I'm a business owner. I come from business. And when you set clear expectations and then you hold people accountable, you get results. That's what I plan to do.
I forget what I was so caught up on saying. I forgot the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Good job.
The question is,
I agree with
There you
him
go.
and her, actually.
some opponent love. That's
Maybe we
always
can go
good.
home.
So for the homes that you believe can be rebuilt, do you think you can help the process move along faster? If so, how? And how will you do that in your first term? Please be specific.
I don't know how I could make it any slower. Okay. There is a culture, and the culture is we want you to be safe, and we want to do everything right. And the problem about being safe is that we're all going to get old and sick and die, and so none of us are really safe. Woody Allen said none of us are going to get out of here alive, and it's true. So I don't want the county to guarantee safety. Just get out of our way. So July, do you remember July 1891, July 17th? No, nobody does. The entire town of Boulder Creek burned down, July 17th. They rebuilt it in 2 years. This is before they had, electricity, cars, computers. They rebuilt the town of Boulder Creek, the downtown Boulder Creek, in 2 years. They didn't have anything, but they didn't have any government either. And now, 4 years later, we lose 1,100 homes. We built 37 back. We got everything. I'm sure you've talked with all kinds of folks, computers and everything, but we have government. To me, that's the difference. Back off. Let us do this thing. I mean, this is insane. We have a home up in Idaho, and to get a permit in Idaho was $30 and one sheet of paper, and when you're done, they want a picture of your finished house. This is insane. I mean, I love it up there, but anyway. So am I out of time now? Probably. She just gave up on me.
Yes,
I'm
you
sorry.
are. No, yeah. That was perfectly timed,
Oh,
Tom. Yeah, that was
all
great.
right.
You
You
did
didn't
great.
give up. All
Yes.
right. Sorry.
Give the mic to Monica, please. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to have you repeat the question again.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. So the question: for the homes that you believe can be rebuilt in the CZU burn scar, do you think you can help the process move along faster? If so, how, and how do you plan to do that in your first term? Please be as specific as possible.
Thank you. I think this goes back to accountability. I think we currently have a planning department that's reporting to the CAO's office, who's reporting to the board, that we've done everything we can. And we need to represent our residents. The 5th District Supervisor, I need to represent our residents to the county and to say, this is what needs to happen. We need rebuilding faster. We need your support. We need you to open the gates in the planning department because the gates have been closed for too long. Being specific, we need to allow third-party permit planning reviews, right? If we don't have enough staff right now, then let's allow our folks to hire a third party to do that plan check. We need to ensure that there's no wait list. Today, we have a wait list for people who are submitting permitting applications, and sometimes they won't even let you get on the list. They're not accepting submittals, right? And that doesn't only slow things down for folks trying to rebuild, that slows things down for folks trying to build ADUs, for anybody who's trying to develop affordable housing anywhere in the county, right? It's slowing us down. So we need to fully staff our planning department, we need to fully fund them, and then we need to hold them accountable to opening the gates. So that way we can make progress in this county, because we've been backlogged for far too long.
Thank you. We got a mic for Theresa. Yeah. Down. Do we,
Thank you.
is there another mic down there? We have two mics? Yeah. All right, yeah. Why don't you, Tom and Monica, you guys share that one. All right, share this one over here. Okay.
Thank you. My career prior to taking a hiatus to have my children and focus on education was engineering, and I specialize in process. So I like to get into something and see what's broken. I've been in the planning department myself, and been just, in total disbelief at some of the things that I've been told. I've stood and watched senior citizen negotiate from $150,000 worth of fees down to 60. Now, had he not negotiated and not known to, to negotiate, he would have walked out with that big bill. So we have a lot to work on. There is a sense of fear. My neighbors fear the planning department. They would not apply for SBA funds. They're afraid someone will come out and walk their property, and their property will be reappraised and they'll be fined. So they won't ask for help. We need to get into this whole thing, and we need to build a better culture in that department. And when you go into a department that has been overwhelmed as well, it's change that needs to happen, and positivity as well as accountability. They have been working very hard. There have been no processes that they could show that they were performing satisfactorily. They're following the rules. So again, we need to build it up and make it better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me do on stage, raise your hand if the condition of county roads are part of the reason why you're running for supervisor. Okay, that was kind of an easy one. In the audience, why don't you raise your hands if county roads are a huge issue for you in this upcoming election? Okay, so yeah, that's good. Okay, so a few quick figures. District 5 is home to 143 linear miles of road. The 2023 storms caused $140 million in damage to county infrastructure. That's roads, bridges, culverts, et cetera. The county still has $40 million in outstanding damage from the 2017 storms. Climate science says more extreme weather is coming, which means more pressure on infrastructure. And if we think the federal government is coming to help, they might, but FEMA still owes the county $160 million from costs it incurred from the 2017 storms, COVID, CZU, and the 2023 storms. And that's to say nothing of the $1 billion in deferred maintenance countywide to roads, bridges, and culverts. That's $1 billion with a B. So the county doesn't have enough money to fix all the recent damage, the 7-year-old damage, or likely all the future damage. Yet people will still need to get around. So Tom, we'll start with you. How are you going to approach the issue of roads and infrastructure to ensure your constituents are able to get around in a future likely to bring more extreme storms and infrastructure damage? Is that? All right, we're back to sharing one mic. Yep. All right.
You can have that one. I'll project. So I was running late getting here because we discovered on our road we have a new landslide which blocked off the neighbors up above. Roads are expensive, beastly expensive, and we've all seen this, and I saw this a few weeks ago. I was going down Highway 9, and there was the county road crew that was working on it. And there were 2 trucks and a supervisor's car. There were 6 guys standing around looking down a hole. The supervisor had the map, and there's 2 folks at either end and 1 guy in the hole with a shovel. I'm thinking, here's 8 people on a job. Now, I build houses, and if I show up in my crews and I got 8 people standing around watching 1 guy hammer, those guys are done. But apparently it's okay with the county because we'll just get more money. We'll just get more money. No one's really working here, but we'll just do it. So I think the issue is not so much how much it costs, but how efficient it is. And up in Idaho, I love the way they do it in Idaho. They put it out to private bid. At night, when all the traffic is done, they start on both sides of the roads, 2 different crews, privately, come together, do 10 miles of road that night, and they're done. But they're private guys, they work hard, they work on, in LA, you see the way they do things. They build them quickly. So let's, if we know something doesn't work, let's not pay for more of it. Let's get it that works.
And you're saying the cost, it's not about cost for you, despite $1 billion in deferred maintenance and a pretty tight county budget.
I'm not impressed with how the county budgets things. The cost for them to do it and the cost for a private sector to do it is probably worlds different, just in the paperwork alone.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Monica.
All right. The first thing is, I think the 5th District needs an advocate. We need a squeaky wheel because we see that when we have roads destroyed, they do not get fixed as quickly as other parts of our county. And for us, it's a public safety issue. We've had main arteries coming in and out of the San Lorenzo Valley that have been closed for months. This impacts safety, it impacts children trying to go to school, like my kids, it impacts economic development, it impacts everybody. So we need an advocate who is saying that our 5th District issues are important, just as important as anywhere else. We need to look at our revenue challenges in our county. We have revenue shortages. If you were here for the previous speakers, you heard about some of them. We need to advocate for Measure K. We need to continue to add revenue because that will help to improve our roads. And then we need to set priorities. I've been knocking on a lot of doors. I've been talking to a lot of constituents, and a lot of people have issues with their roads, right? So we need to start setting priorities, and as the CEO of a large health and human services nonprofit that is underfunded and is constantly making difficult choices, I understand how you have to set priorities, you have to do long-term planning, and you have to make actionable results little by little to get the change that you want to see. Thank you.
Thanks. Bring that down to Theresa, please. Yeah, that mic was not working. Yeah.
Go.
Okay, yep, Theresa, you're up.
Could you repeat?
And I can repeat the question, sure. So, given the challenges with how much infrastructure is going to cost and repairing infrastructure, and given how much deferred maintenance we have and the millions of dollars in damage likely to come from future storms, how are you going to approach the issue of roads and infrastructure to ensure your constituents are able to get around?
I would go for a bond, and I know what tax sensitivity right now is high, but we're going to have to raise the money. And I think that's number one, and I think the money needs to be specific to our transportation needs. And then based on the assessments that we already have a great deal of data. We know the areas that need attention first. We start attacking them. It is dangerous. I collected signatures in lieu, walking around and talking to people, and almost everyone said safety was one of their top priorities. Many of these have one lane that you can go through. There are roads in my area where there are 4 sections on one road that has one lane, and they have stop signs, not the stop lights that you see that stop a whole line of cars. They literally have a stop sign around a blind curve. And we have residents who are being, getting sideswiped. It's frightening. So we don't have enough money, obviously, to put in the stop signs for a single lane road. So that tells me we've got to raise money, and that's going to be hard, but bottom line, we have to do that. Thank you.
Thanks. So bond for a bond. Theresa, bond for a bond. Yep, there you go. That's free. That's free. Okay.
All right, so I think the first thing we would need to do, the first thing we need to approach budgetary-wise, how do we close the gap between where we are right now with our reimbursements from FEMA and where we need to be with them existing? So we need to leverage the relationships we have with folks like Jimmy Panetta, with folks in the federal government who can help push this and get this money to us. It has been many years, and I've yet to hear a single explanation for why it's taken 3-4 years to reimburse us for promises that FEMA made back in 2017. And if we haven't heard that from Jimmy, well, why not? Why haven't our representatives gone to him and say, hey, this is your job. You need to bring this money home to us. I consider Senator I consider John Laird a huge, huge influence on myself as far as it comes with related to bringing home money from Sacramento and bringing it home. He has been very inspiring. He goes there, he determines what his people needs, and he brings it back home, right? And that's a relationship that you have to cultivate and put to work to fix these big problems. Our budget isn't going to get that much bigger, right? We got the 13 cents on the dollar. Even if we made more, even if we took more, it's coming from somewhere else, right? Santa Clara, they get 84 cents for the tax dollars they get from parcels or from homes. We get 13, but the rest of that dollar is still being used somewhere else, so we can't just rely on that to raise this money. We've got to find that extra money from FEMA. We have to be efficient, and we got to work on grants and things like that so we can avoid bonds as much as possible.
Okay. All right, can you pass the mic down to Monica, please? Thank you. Monica's going to start with this next question. Okay, so the current board, and you kind of heard this question before if you were here for the District 2 forum, but the current board has been widely criticized as operating on autopilot without much identity or direction, and that county staff really steers the Santa Cruz County ship instead of the people's elected officials. It's not to say county staff does not work hard. It's just kind of where the power sits right now and the power dynamic between the elected officials and staff. So one, do you agree with these criticisms? And how would you swing the pendulum of power back towards the elected officials and ensure that the public's representatives are setting the public's agenda and direction?
The response to the first part of your question is yes. I do believe right now our county leadership is on autopilot, and that often it's just this churn of the way things have always been. And I know this because I lead the county's largest contractor, and I've been trying to lead health equity and change and improve conditions for our residents for the last decade. And I'm constantly going up against the challenges of a county that likes the status quo, that likes the way things have always been. And so I've developed a reputation for pushing against the status quo to make sure that my clients, that my workforce, that my community gets the services that they deserve. So how will I make, is the other part of your question, how will you make the change?
Yeah, so how are you going to swing the pendulum of power back towards elected officials and ensure the public's representatives are setting the public's agenda and direction?
Because there has never been a representative with my level, or a supervisor with my type of experience, who's worked for the community, who's worked with the community, coming into the seat, and I'm ready to advocate for the community. We haven't had a representative who's ready to be a part of San Lorenzo Valley, 5th District, sitting in that seat and advocating for change. Am I out of time? Sorry. And so I guess I don't think I'm out of time yet. So I'm going to bring that sense of accountability that I talked about before. I'm going to, now I'm out of time. I'm talking about
I had to repeat the question, so give her 10 more seconds.
I would just say that I feel like my job, my profession as CEO of Encompass is basically to be a big pain in the butt to the county, to the CAO's office, to get things done for our community. I've been negotiating with county departments for the last 10 years. I've been negotiating at the CAO's office for the last 10 years. I'm very experienced in how to get things done, how to collaborate with other people, with other leaders, how to work with the existing Board of Supervisors and partners to get things done.
Great, thank you. Bring that mic down. Bring the mic down to Theresa. Thank you. Okay. So the question. So the board has been widely criticized as operating on autopilot without much identity or direction. Do you agree with this criticism, and how do you plan to swing the pendulum of power back towards elected officials and ensure that the public's representatives are setting the public's agenda and direction?
Whenever you walk into a situation, and the board that I am on, our budget's $73 million. We have 400 staff, and that's in comparison to the county budget of $1.1 billion and about 2,700 staff. But when you have a valuable staff, you need to work with them to get them back on board. It is not easy to replace people and to recruit people, but sometimes you have to start, and you do have to have turnover for this to happen. At my current school district, we've had almost 85% turnover at the superintendent level, which I was thrilled to be able to recruit a new superintendent, and he basically was able to build his dream team. And that organization now has changed the conversation and added positivity back onto our school campus. So there's many ways of doing it, but I think you have to have, I want to say, a positive attitude to go in. You just can't go in and start kicking butt, because you will get resistance to that. You have to go in and partner with people and appreciate them for what their contributions are, and then start to make the change for accountability. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I definitely agree that, I don't know if autopilot is necessarily fair, but government is a machine, right? And there are a lot of cogs in that machine. Cogs like, staff that have been there a long time. Cogs like politicians, cogs like, nonprofits that work closely with the county. They're all part of the same machine. If we want the status quo, we keep doing the same thing. We put the same kinds of people in place. Currently, even when you have good ideas, they run up against the culture. They run up against that machine, and sometimes they get ground to dust. For example, Manu had the great idea about pushing for the tiny homes, right, and making it possible for people to have them. But on the back end of that, they required you to have a foundation for your tiny home. They required you to install sprinklers in your tiny home. So by the time you're done with this tiny home, you have built a small house, and you went from an affordable way to live, to something that's up in the $300,000+. So great ideas go into this machine and die. And the only way to fix that is to change the culture, to change the people we have on top, and to do something new.
Great.
So I think we use the word for the culture, it's slow or on autopilot, right? That's a descriptor. I like comatose. So here's how it works at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I've been to too many of them. It's folks come to public comment and they speak and they speak, and if it's a hot subject, they'll talk for hours and hours and hours. And finally, someone says, okay, is there anything from the consent calendar? And one of the supervisors say, I move that we accept the consent calendar. The others say, let's do it. Okay, let's go home. Now, what they've just done in that 2 minutes is they've accepted everything that everyone in the county has done, and they didn't have a chance to read it. So how do you change the culture? Well, we've done it a few times. I don't know how you change the culture permanently, but we've been able to change it by filling the room full of folks. I don't know if you remember the lamp. We had that problem with the lamp where they were doing the enhanced systems. They wanted everyone to spend $120,000 for a new septic system. We were able to fill the room full of people. And the supervisor said, you know what? I don't think we're going to pass that one. Let's kick it down the road. And that's what you do. You get involved. County supervisors have broad powers. They're there for 4 years. They have all the executive, all the legislative, and the quasi-judicial, which is another way of saying judicial. So all three branches of government are in the 5 supervisors. Broad powers. They can do great things or no things. And we've seen too many years of no things. I think we can all agree about that.
Okay, thanks. Bring the mic down to Theresa. All right, so I had sent you, just for transparency's sake, I had given this question to the candidates beforehand. I thought it was important to get a prepared answer for this one. So as a supervisor, you will have the latitude to lead on policy discussions and direct county staff's work. What are 3 asks, directions, or policies you will bring to the supervisor's agenda in your first year? And please be as concrete as possible. And Theresa, we'll start with you. And since I gave this question to you guys ahead of time, we're going to give you 60 seconds.
Number 1 would be safety. And I can't find my notes. I'm so sorry. They were right there. The grand jury report for fire safe, number 1 would be that we implement the recommendations that came off of that 2 years ago. Number 2 would, again with safety, would be we need to address our roads. I would look at taxes again, and the new taxes that are coming, they all go into the general budget, and I don't know how that's going to be dispersed by priority to the areas that need it. There are so many needs right now, and we do know from the state, the governor's budget as well, we know that we are going to have some lean years coming. So we really need to sit down and have a long-term planning session and look at the financial situation we're going to be facing for the next 4 years.
And do you have a third? Sorry, you said 2.
Oh, the third one is, and this is, I would reintroduce term limits to supervisors.
Okay.
I
We'll
really
stop it there. And sorry, yeah. That's a good. That's strong. Okay.
All right, so I have to be pithy. I'm going to jump right into it. I think cost of living is a huge thing that's impacting families all over the 5th District. One thing we could do is be supportive of childcare. So parental co-ops, childcare initiatives, there's a lot the county could do to make it possible for families to not have to spend an entire paycheck each month to take care of their children. It'll stop some of the exodus that we're seeing of young families, out of the 5th District, and I think that's important. I think road safety, there are tons of places I've been walking the district, connecting with people. Over and over I've heard our cities aren't walkable. It's dangerous for people. My children can't ride the bike down into town in Boulder Creek if I ever want to see them again, right? It's a real issue, and it's something we need to approach. So even though we can't fix all the roads at once, we can deal with safety. And the third thing would be awareness about fire mitigation. A lot of folks understand that there's something we can do about this, but they don't know what to do, and they don't know what the resources are. So transparency and communication from the county could make a huge difference and could make it so that a lot of us keep our homes when, not if, when the next fire comes through.
3 things in a minute. Okay. The first thing I probably would do is contact all of the folks that lost their homes in the fire, make a real survey, find how far did you get, why did you quit, what did you run into, and make sort of a profile of this and say, where are the problems? That hasn't been done. The county doesn't even know how many homes were lost. That's pretty scary after 4 years. That leads right into going into the planning, building, environmental health department and find out just why they can't get stuff done. I mean, dig down, start at the top and dig down. The other thing that I'm really concerned about is this LAMP program, and I wrote something about this in the Scotts Valley Times a year ago, but basically it's the county's hope that all homes, all new conditioned space or all existing homes have an enhanced septic system, which costs now between $100,000 to $150,000. That's scary stuff, and that's something they're pushing. It's a mandate from the state. I say forget that mandate.
Thank you. All right, Monica.
Thank you. The first one, I'm going to go back to the planning department. Like I said, the gates have been closed for too long, and we need to open those gates, not just for recovery, but also for building multifamily housing, for building ADUs. And so I want to implement the third-party plan check. I want to implement the no wait list for submitting permits. I want to make sure that we're fully staffed and fully funded. Number 2 is water. It's extremely expensive and difficult to provide water in the mountains. However, water is a human right, and we have people who've been left behind. We need our county to intervene and provide special assistance to the SLV Water District so that way they can get their footing under themselves and help with the Big Basin Water Company challenges. We need support. We experienced a huge amount of damage in the CZU fires. And the third, I can't possibly become one of the first women on the Board of Supervisors in 12 years without talking about women's reproductive health. We have women's rights are under attack across the country, and we need a woman's voice up there who makes sure that our community is a safe haven for women's reproductive health and that we have inclusion and access for all services for women and reproductive health locally and throughout our country, honestly. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. We're going to move to some audience questions. I want to get through a bunch of these, or as many as we can. So if you guys don't mind, maybe 30-second answers on these, okay? Yep, thanks. Okay, Ruby, you got that? 30 seconds, thanks. Okay, so this one's from the audience. What would you do to contain the high cost of utilities, water rates, PG&E, and garbage? We are being priced out of our homes. And we'll start with Chris, and wherever the microphone is.
This is difficult because this isn't something that's necessarily achievable at the county level, right? We can't set the rates for utilities. We can't make that less expensive. But what we can do is make efforts to reduce the cost of living in other areas where we do have control, right? Where there are fees that we're charging that are negatively impacting people. So if we're paying attention and we're getting the data and we see that these fees are increasing elsewhere, we can make proactive moves to make it so folks are still able to tread water, and survive.
I don't know how to make PG&E rates lower, except I really don't. But I know how to save money on garbage. As a matter of fact, we have our garbage. I actually get paid to do my garbage, and here's how I do it. So we have 6 large cans at the house, and I separate the organic stuff and I put it in the garden, and the other stuff is piled here. And it takes me about 6 months, because it's just the 2 of us, to fill up those cans, and I take them to the transfer station along with my recyclables. It costs me $25 to dump my trash, and I get about $40 from my recyclables. So that's how I do it. I wouldn't advise others to do, but that's how it works for me.
Okay, great. Monica.
So through my work at Encompass Community Services, I see the impact of the cost of living. And we have many people in our community who can barely make ends meet. So these bills, it's serious. We need to ensure that we're investing in our infrastructure without doing it on the backs of our low-income community members. We have a water rate adjustment coming up where there's a low-income program. So we're not doing it on the backs of people who are low-income. We're actually going to charge more for the higher utilizers, the big organizations who are using water. We also need to hold PG&E accountable, right? They're charging us more, but we're not getting better service. We're not getting better connectivity. They're not doing anything to prevent wildfire, right? And so as a county, we need to be holding them accountable so then the dollar that we do spend does improve the conditions of our community. Thank you.
Thanks. Bring it down to Theresa. One mic. Okay. Yep.
I would immediately ask that we convene a public meeting and provide a citizens oversight committee, and that we do a scorecard. I don't like the word provider. I like the word that I learned working in the Silicon Valley, supplier. And we work with our suppliers. We come up with a plan to evaluate them at the end of a certain period of time. And that scorecard means something. And then when you negotiate with them, even if it's at the state level, what you do is you ask for concessions. You ask them, you want backup generators at every public agency that needs them during a disaster. They've done this in San Diego County. So we need to...
Thanks. No, you're good. I just want to get through as many questions as possible. If you could pass that down to Tom, please. Okay, so Tom, what policies are you considering to address the community childcare shortage?
I have no idea. All my kids are growing up, and I have 19 grandkids. I honestly I could make up something. I think we should raise a lot of money and help them out, but I have no idea. So who's next?
Yep, Monica.
At Encompass, for the last decade, I've administered Head Start and Early Head Start across the county. So I provide 0 to 5 education and support families countywide. And we have a challenge. Our wages aren't keeping up to keep our staff. And we also don't have a lot of training programs for people who want to go into early childhood education. So I would work with Cabrillo, the president was here earlier, to increase workforce development programs for people who want to go into childcare. And I'd help make sure that our childcare programs are fully funded because it's a critical part of economic development. It's going to help our families to survive and thrive if they have childcare.
Thank you. This is a great tight 30 right there. All right, Theresa.
I sit on the Strong Start Council in Santa Clara County, and they have a program that I would partner with Susan Ellenberg, who is the president of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, called Build the Future. It is nonprofit and it is private. So what you do is you go to Google, you go to Genentech, you go to the major companies here that are busing our professionals from Scotts Valley into the Silicon Valley, and you ask them to partner with you to make childcare affordable, and it's working there. So bringing a multi-county approach to this problem, I think, would be a fantastic idea.
Thank you, Chris.
I think we need to look at community-based solutions as much as possible for things like this. Sometimes it's hard to find funding and find programs like Head Start. They're not accessible for everyone who lives up in the mountains and who's putting their child through school either at home or through one of the alternative schools. So I think parental co-ops, childcare co-ops are a great choice. We get parents involved, greatly reduce the cost because people are using their time instead of money, to pay for the childcare. And yeah, it's been successful in other places before, and I believe we should do things that work and not experiment if we don't have to.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to move on to lightning round.
I have to say a flip because it's
Sure.
important to our public.
Sure.
So at the SLV campus, there's a Ludlow Head Start Center that currently has vacancy. So if you have a child, 0 to 5, who needs childcare right now, please reach out to Encompass Community Services. I'd love to help connect you to that service. Thank you.
That's a great plug. Okay, so the questions we didn't get to, me and the rest of the reporting team will get to them in our reporting. We're going to do a little lightning round just to kind of ease the clear tension on stage. I don't know, you guys have been great. There's no tension at all. Yeah, it's been a love fest up here. All right. Okay, so for the lightning round, I'm actually going to relinquish the mic, and Theresa and Chris can share mic, and then you two down there can share mic. Okay, Tom and Monica. All right. Okay, so these are just really quick answers. Favorite fresh produce, Theresa?
Mango.
Microgreens.
Strawberries.
I was going to say strawberries. All right, blueberries. I should have taken it. All right.
Okay, all right. Favorite hike or scenic road in the county? Start with Chris.
The Garden of Eden. If you live up in SLV, you know.
You took my place. All right, so we like to walk along Pleasure. Myra, what's that place called where they surf? Pleasure Point.
All right, great.
Look at the surfers.
Monica.
I'm with you with Henry Cowell. I'm there almost every day.
Great. Theresa.
Natural bridges.
Okay, we'll start with Tom here. What was your first paying job?
Well, I was a self-employed muskrat trapper.
We're going to leave that there. That's great. Monica.
No, let me do that. You're going to like this. So this is when minimum wage was $25 an hour, and I lived out in a farm out in the rural area, and I trapped 25 cents an hour.
I was involved in Future Farmers of America, and I raised market lambs in high school.
Oh, paper boy. Paper person.
I was a cook at Pizza Hut. A chef, if you will.
A chef, that's right. And last question, what time do you wake up in the morning? Theresa, sorry.
6:30.
About 5:30 and go to sleep about 1:30.
Tom?
I'm actually up at 5:30, incredibly enough.
I've got 2 school-age kids. We're up at 6:30.
Okay, great. All right, let's give the candidates a round of applause. And thank you all for coming. That's it.